Hello, everyone. Ryan from the Canadian Football Countdown here, bringing you the first episode of an off-season series here with our 2024 CFL Offseason Outlook, taking a look at each of the teams around the league. Of course, the CFL season did just end a couple of weeks ago with the Montreal Alouettes being the Grey Cup champions. So I figured what better way to kick it off than take a look at the defending champs. We'll take a look at who their pending free agents are, who they've still got under contract, and what this offseason might look like as we gear up towards the next big event for the CFL, which is CFL free agency on February 13th. Still a couple of months away, but lots of activity to come between now and then as well. So let's dive in and take a look at the Montreal Alouettes. The Alouettes finished off the 2023 season with an 11-7 record, including 5 straight wins to end the regular season. They knock off the Ticats in East semifinal, upset the Argos in the East final, and then go on and play a fantastic game in the Grey Cup over the Bombers to win it all. A amazing season for Montreal, much better than I expected from them coming into the year. They impressed me a lot. And kudos to them for getting it done. And I think they're a team that's kind of well positioned for a potential, ability to run it back again this year. They actually have very few free agents as we begin to take a look. First, let's start off by taking a look at kind of where they ended off statistically in a bunch of categories last season. So let's take a look at the offensive stats here first. Montreal's offense was underwhelming most of the season until the Grey Cup when Cody Fajardo and crew played what I thought was their best offensive game of the entire season. If you look at the stat rankings here, I mean, offensive points, they were 7th in the league. Touchdowns, last in the league, only 31 offensive touchdowns in 18 games. First down, 7th. Rushing yards, they did put up 102 rushing yards a game. They finished 5th in the league in rushing yards. Passing yards, 250 per game, 6th there. I think Fajardo hardly ever went over 300, but he was pretty consistent. He had the highest completion percentage in the CFL, though, at 70.7%, while giving up the 8th most sacks at 61 and average time of possession 29.45, good for 4th in the league. So, they completed a lot of passes. They held on to the ball quite a bit, but they were still bottom half of the league in a lot of offensive stats. And that just shows that this was a team that played pretty conservatively offensively. They made the short, accurate passes. They were struggling to stretch the field, though, and struggling to get those big plays to get the ball into the end zone. And you know what? That's not unexpected either, given what this team looked like coming into the season after, Trevor Harris, Eugene Lewis, Jake Winicki. These are the big pieces that go away in the offseason. What impact does Jason Maas and crew have on the offense there and just a young group of receivers? I think they played, well, given the expectations I had for them coming into the year. But there's definitely room for growth for them on the offensive side in terms of these stat categories. On the defense, on the other side of things, I think this is the most underrated defense in the league, and it showed in the Grey Cup, and it showed throughout the playoffs where the defense just stepped up and dominated when it needed to. This is a team that finished, top 3 in most categories here on defense in the regular season, allowing just 21 points per game, only allowing 37 offensive touchdowns, good for second in the league there. Same thing with first downs allowed per game and passing yards, only 239 passing yards a game allowed by the Alouettes defense. The one spot they kind of struggled a little bit at times was rushing yards. Teams were able to exploit them a little bit in the run game throughout the season. And that was kind of how you had to attack them. But they managed to shut down the passing game really, really well. Including, limiting teams to just 64% completion rate through the pass, which was second best in the league, and forcing 48 turnovers, also good for second best. But again, a spot they surprisingly struggled was the sacks category, tied for 6th in the league with just 41 sacks on defense. So, this is a team that gave up a lot of rushing yards, didn't get a ton of sacks. Maybe there wasn't a ton of pressure there, but I think this speaks volume to just the secondary and the linebacking core and everyone involved in that defense, that they were able to keep teams out of the end zone throughout the season. Now let's move on and take a look at who they have as pending free agents, according to the free agent list on the CFL website. Here is the list of them. Let's start off with the offense here. Very few. All of their quarterbacks remain under center. We'll take a look at who that all is shortly. But they also have all of their running backs currently listed at free agents as free agents. William Stanback, National Jeshurun Antwi, and Walter Fletcher all on the free agent list. I'm interested to see what they do there. This is a team that's rotated in and out throughout the season this year. You know, sometimes it was Stanback, then Stanback got hurt, then Antwi went in, but then Walter Fletcher came in for a couple of games and started. Then he was off the roster when Stanback came back. So this is the team I'm intrigued to see what direction they go at running back going forward, because I think all of these backs are solid running backs. That could be a focal point of an offense if given the opportunity to do so. At wide receiver, the most notable free agent there is Greg Ellingson. He was the big free agent fish brought in last offseason, but was not able to play very many games this year due to injury, unfortunately. And he's a guy I honestly don't expect back. I think the team was forced into a situation to, develop a lot of their young wide receivers in this league, and they played pretty well in the time they were in the lineup. So I think you're going to have a hard time finding a spot for a guy like Ellingson to stick around in that receiving core this year. A couple of nationals, Jake Hardy, Regis Sabasu. I mean, Jake Hardy, playoff hero in that game against the Ticats. Maybe they come back in depth roles there, but they've got a couple good options in the Canadian wide receiver department there in Montreal as well. Fullbacks James Tuck and Alexander Gagne also on the free agent list. And on the offensive line, a number of bigger names here. David Brown, Philippe Gagnon, Jesse Gibbon, Christian Matt, and Landon Rice all on the offensive line free agent list. So if there's anywhere on offense that I could see the Alouettes focusing on this offseason, it's figuring out what to do at running back and then trying to bring back what they can on the offensive line, or going out and making improvements, because, again, they did give up quite a few sacks this season. On the defensive side of the ball, been a couple big names here as free agents, including Sean Lemon on the defensive line and Darnell Sankey at linebacker. These are the two big pieces they brought in middle of the season last year that really made the difference and turned things around for the Alouettes. And they're two fantastic players that absolutely, if you can, I think they got to bring back. I think we learned that, not other teams not pursuing Sean Lemon in the offseason, or BC letting him go, maybe was a mistake after he was the reigning sack leader, or defense player of the year before. I think he was the West nominee. Sean Lemon, Avery Ellis, Vincent Desjardins on the defensive line. At linebacker, you've got Tyrese Beverett, another big piece there. I think he's one of the best defensive players in the CFL as well. Darnell Sankey, Avery Williams, and Frederick Chagnon at linebacker on the free agent list. While at defensive back, you got Ciante Evans, Najee Murray, and Nafis Lyon on the free agent list there. Let's take a look at what they've got. Who's under contract still? These are the names that may be leaving, but as of right now, these are the names that we expect to see back in Montreal next year. Again, at quarterback, Fajardo, Caleb Evans, and Davis Alexander, the three from this past season, all under contract still. I imagine after the performance and, the way he fired the team up there, Fajardo's coming back as the starter this year. I would imagine you keep these three, and they are not a team to be active in the quarterback market this offseason. Running back, some question marks there. Again, nobody currently under contract, so either some of these guys are being brought back. I have to imagine they'd want to bring Stan back for another season, because I know he's a huge favorite there, but we'll see what happens in that regard. At fullback, David Dalliere, Jacob Mason, a couple nationals under contract there for them. On the offensive line, Sean Jameson, Justin Lawrence. I have here in the video slide Landon Rice listed. I think that was a mistake. I apologize. I believe he is a free agent because he was on that free agent list earlier. So remove him from the list here. Pierre-Olivier Lestage, Nick Callender, Joshua Donovan, Jamar McCloster, all under contract. So you got some big pieces there in Jameson, Justin Lawrence that it's good to retain there. But again, a lot of their I believe, starting offensive linemen on the free agent list currently. So I could see this being a position that Montreal focuses on tinkering with a little bit this offseason to make that offense even better. Continuing with the offense and looking at the wide receiver list, this team I think is set for a really good upcoming year and tremendous growth at the wide receiver position. Austin Mack, if you look at the guys that I would expect to be kind of considered in the starting category, Austin Mack, fantastic year. If he was eligible as a rookie, he probably would have won Rookie of the Year in my opinion. But he wasn't because he had some NFL time. It could have been the Grey Cup MVP, honestly. Tyson Philpott, national wide receiver, he came on really strong at the end of the year and built a connection with Cody Fajardo. I expect that to continue going into next season as well. Strong season for Tyler Snead, Cole Speaker as well. Reggie White Jr. Didn't play at all this past season due to injury. He is under contract though, so we'll see how he factors in to this new offense coming off the injury next year if he is ready to go. And Keon Julian Grant, really, really good start of the year, breakout player there, national receiver, been with the team for a couple of years now, had a strong breakout to start the season, then unfortunately had his injury and didn't really factor into the offense as much throughout in the couple of games he came back later in the year. But, a healthy KJG, there we go, could be a weapon for this offense as well. And that's not all. You've got Chandler Worthy, James Letcher Jr. These two are fantastic kick returners that can rotate in on offense as well. Letcher Jr. ran back 3 returns for touchdowns at the end of the year. So you have to imagine he's probably going to get a strong role in the special teams department. And maybe that opens a guy like Worthy up to be available on offense a little bit more as well. Kashan Abram, Courtney Davis, Shedler Furvius, and Kevin Kaya, a global player, all factored in a couple of games here and there throughout the season as well. So this is a team that I think you stick with the guys you have at wide receiver here if you're Montreal. You let them continue to develop and get better this year, and I think you spend your money on the offensive line if you're and running back if you're spending on offense. On the defensive side of the ball, taking a look at the defensive line as well. To start, Armando Sewell, Mustafa Johnson, Luau Uguak, Brock Gowanlock, T.J. Moultrie, Marcus Valdez, and Israel Antwine make up the defensive linemen still under contract. Really good names there, guys that really made an impact late in the season and in the playoffs there. Mustafa Johnson, Luau Uguak are guys I look at in that category as mainstays on this defensive line. And I mean, who doesn't love Armando Sewell? At linebacker, there were a couple notable free agents, but some guys who are still under contract include national Tyrell Richards, I believe the first overall pick 2 years ago. Miles Manoa also in the national department, Chris Moore, and Bryce Notre. Looking at defensive backs, you got Marc-Antoine Dequoy. I believe he was the East nominee for Most Outstanding Canadian and is a huge piece of this defense and one of the best defensive players in the league, in my opinion. Wesley Sutton, Raheem Wilson, KB Anento, Reggie Stubblefield, J.R. Reed, Deontay Ruffin, Cordell Rogers, Tyson Copeland, Deshaun McNary, Kenneth Durden, and Zach Lindley make up the rest of the defensive backcourt. This team's stacked in the defensive backfield. I mean, you've got guys like Dequoy and Sutton who have some experience in this league and are really strong in that category. And then you've got KB Anento, you got Reggie Stubblefield, who was a rookie this year, who played lights out for this team. And this team's only going to get better in the defensive backfield. So, Montreal, if you're going to spend on the defensive side of the ball, I think it's taking like that linebacker position. It's making sure that, and the defensive line, really, if we go back to it, and seeing if you can get those pieces like Sean Lemon, like Tyrese Beverett, like Darnell Sankey, or replacements for them, I think are the keys on the defensive side of the ball for Montreal. And who doesn't? We can't forget the special teams, of course. No free agents on the special teams side of the ball for them this year, but the players under contract, David Cote as their kicker and Jose Maltos as backup kicker. punter Joseph Zima and Rhys Burns, both from the global initiative there. Long snapper Louis Philippe Barassa, and again, kick and punt returner James Letcher Jr. and Chandler Worthy can both take part in that category. I wouldn't expect them to do too much in the special teams department. Cote didn't have a fantastic year. He finished the year, I think, around 75% kicking. But Maltos rotated in and didn't do too bad at times either. So, if anything, maybe we have kicking competition between these two in training camp next year. But I don't know if this is a team that's going to go out and sign a big free agent in this department. Overall, I mean, the Montreal Alouettes are a team that doesn't have a ton of free agents. I think they've got a couple of pieces that um, they can bring back. Those defense players I talked about, those running backs I talked about. This is a team that I think is going to benefit from just another year, more experience in that wide receiver core, more comfort and familiarity with one another because they have some younger pieces on the team, and they're in a good position to run it back. Strong end to the year. They've got the momentum going into the offseason. And we've seen with teams like Winnipeg, who's been to the finals a couple years in a row, manage to keep the team together and go back to back. So I think this is going to be a good offseason for the Alouettes. More steady offseason for the Alouettes than last year. Less of the chaos that came with changing owners and not really having any direction going into the day of free agency. Should be a much quieter offseason for Montreal, which means Alouettes and their fans just get to sit back, enjoy it, and celebrate the Grey Cup victory. So let us know in the comments section what you think the offseason may look like for Montreal, who you'd like to see brought back, what positions you'd like to maybe see them go out and make some moves this offseason, and stay tuned for the rest of the series here on the Canadian Football Countdown. Follow us on social media at CF Countdown Pod on Twitter and Facebook. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@CF Countdown Pod for more off-season content here throughout the next couple of months here on the Canadian Football Countdown. Thanks for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.